Today I decided I'm going to make a recurve. I have a lot of great staves to work with. Any of them will work, really. But I want to get the perfect one. I don't want to get one that has any defects at all. I just want to make it, they say if you're going to make a recurve, get the best one you can. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick the best one for the recurve today. Why am I doing a recurve? Well, you know, just because I guess the black locust one I made, you know, had a grain lift. I figured let me just at least make a recurve, you know, redeem myself, okay? And I'm going to go with the hickory. So that's what the plan is today. Hickory recurve, picking out the best stave, and we're going to make it. I'm not a structural engineer, but I'm making a recurve, and I don't want too much stress on the inner limbs of the riser. So what I did was, it's going to be 66 inches long. I have an 8-inch handle, like, you know, basically everybody does. And then I went up 6 inches on each side, okay, each side, and just kept it that, it'll be that 1.5 inches when I get done sanding it, that 1.5 inches, all right? And then from there, I tapered it down to the 1/2-inch tips, okay? And you know how it is, when you sand it, those 1/2-inch tips will shrink up a little bit. But that's my design, 66 inches, a little stiffer on the inner limbs just a little bit, you know, because it's straight, and then tape it up. No really narrow limbs, I want it to hold up. And we're going to see how the speed is on this compared to one of my other bows. We'll see what pounds we come out, see if I can match the pounds with one of my other bows. See if the recurve's worth it. Like I said in the past, these fire-hardened bows shoot just as fast as some of the recurves. It's almost not worth the trouble. As I cut this riser for the recurve, there was a big cut, big slice where I want to have the riser handle. And I don't know if I'm willing to use this on a recurve. That's going to do. Because of the defect in the riser, it's not really a defect, because of the cut in the riser, and I got to glue a handle on, I'm not going to put it on a recurve. I'm not going to use this for a recurve. So what I'm doing is I'm reshaping it. I'm going to have the narrow limb design that goes down straight, narrow for 8 inches on from tip down, and then tape it down from that 8-inch mark to the midpoint, which is going to be 1 inch, and then from that inch point going to be down to the fade out, which is going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to just trim it up for that speed design for a longbow. That's 66 inches. And once I get done trimming it, I'm putting it on the side for a future project, and I'm going to look again for a recurve blank. So I trimmed this stave now out to a kind of a speed limb design where it's narrower, and then it tapers down, okay? And I'm going to put this away for another day to be sanded, you know, shaped nice, and we're going to see what kind of handle. Maybe we'll do some kind of nice, since I gotta add a handle, maybe we'll make some kind of nice handle to go on it. But like I said, this will be a longbow that'll be fire hardened, that will be, you know, have a handle glued on it, a riser handle glued on it, and it's not going to be used for the recurve. So I'm grabbing another stave and start again. Design for the recurve. This is the next day, and yesterday it got really cold, and I made a stave that I thought was going to be the recurve stave, but because there was a cut in the riser that I thought I was going to be able to remove, and I couldn't, what I had to do was pick another stave to make the recurve out of. And this is when I retrimmed to make kind of the speed design that I've been using. It's a 1/2 inch, goes down 8 inches to 3/8, and from 3/8 it goes down midpoint, the midpoint, to 1 1/4, and from the 1 1/4 it goes to the fade out 1 1/2. And that's kind of the design I've been using. And I put antler tips, because it's thin. I put a little buffalo horn tips, and I had used antler tips. Okay, but I like the buffalo horn tips, cut string grooves. So anyway, this one here that I thought I was going to use is going to be put away. I put the It's rough cut. It's got to be sanded, but you know, this one's going to be put away, and it's going to be used for a longbow at some point. And this is my design now for the recurve. Show you the side profiles. Got a nice handle, beautiful handle, nice grain. This is one of the ones I peeled the winter bark off when I steamed it for an hour and a half, and it's been in the garage now for a couple of weeks. And I laid it out, and what I did was, it's 1.5 inches wide here, but from the fade outs, okay, where the fade outs are, which are here, okay, I went down an additional 6 inches and left it that 1.5 inches, because that's where all that stress is with the recurve when you're pulling it. And then from that 6 inches down, I tape it to a 1/2 inch. Just a straight line, 1/2 inch. Okay, and then I sanded it. You can see I sanded it. And that's the design of today for this recurve. I have my Wagner steamer and my steam tube going. Let me see if you can see this here. See the Wagner steamer and my steam tube. And once again, if you have one of these Wagner steamers and you plug it in, nothing's going to happen. You're going to say, oh, what's the thing broke? Because there's no light or nothing. It's just like nothing's happening. But after 10 minutes, you plug it in, well, you hear it like cooking, like steaming. And then you'll see the steam coming out the end. So I got over here, you know, you get yourself all set up. Over here, I got my 5.5 inch radius recurve jig. Okay, and what I did last time, and I liked it, is I bought one of these cheap, you know, not, you know, you could get them anywhere, I guess, but one of these cheap aluminum yardsticks from Harbor Freight. And that allows me to, remember when you put it in with the handle up. And I'm able to put this in here like this, clamp it. Once it's aligned straight, clamp it and bend it. So you know how when I fire harden it, I say there's a couple of things you need. You need the fireplace gloves and the stick. Well, here, you got to make sure that you got pot holders, because when this piece of wood comes out of that steam tube, it's hot. Okay? So that's the plan. We're going to steam it. Something else worth mentioning, okay? Look at the end of this, okay? It's square, it's flat. It's not tilted, okay? It's flat, belly and the back. Because if it was at an angle and you bent it, chances are it's going to be twisted when you lay it down. So I try to make sure that each side, it's going to go in that 5.5 inch radius. Okay. There's not one side that's higher than the other. Okay. They're both the same for the bend. All right. We're going to put it in the steam tube now. Okay. I have it in the tube, and I have an old t-shirt stuffed around it. And once I see some smoke coming out, it's going to go for 55 minutes. It's 30 degrees out, really cold out. On the end of the cap where the steam fitting is, I have a hole for a drip hole. And as you can see, it's dripping out of there. And I have 2 relief holes here. You can see the steam coming out. Okay, and then when it's ready to bend, I'll get back to you. Okay, you never know what's going to happen, but here we go for the first bend. Remember, handle's got to be up. Handle up. Try to get it aligned quickly as possible. Get the clamp. Speed clamp. Okay, I'm going to use the strap, bend it, keep grain lift. I'm going to get the second one here. No grain lift. I'm going to loosen it, move it a little bit. See if I got it straight as can be. It's fairly straight. With the recurves, you always wind up straightening them a little one way or the other anyway, but I'm trying to get it as straight as I can. Well, it looks as good as I can get it, and there's always tweaking on these. So we're going to let this sit for a while. Okay, see if I get another clamp. I'll put another clamp here maybe. We're good for now. We're good. Okay, it cooled a little. I took my yardstick, my metal yardstick off, and we had a little spring back, but it's okay. We got this beautiful curve. And I reclamped it with the without that ruler on it, and I made sure, looking down at the jig, it is lined and as straight and perfect as I can get it. And now what I'm going to do is use the heat gun and go back and forth and get it to see if I can get it to keep that nice set. Okay, and I'm going to do this for about 10-15 minutes, and then I'll check on it. And in the meantime, I had stopped the steamer and refilled it, and when this is done, I'll plug it in. It takes about 10 minutes to get steaming again, and we'll cook the other side for an hour. I went back and forth with the heat gun for about 12 minutes, and then I let it cool. It's nice and cool now, and we're going to have some spring back. Once we put this on a jig to fire harden it, and it gets fire hardened, it'll be more permanent. It'll be a more permanent set. So let's see what we got. Well, I'm pleased this stayed down. This really shot up a little bit. Oh, there we go, went up. Okay, so when we put this on a jig, we'll redo it, but let's see what kind of bend we got. Okay, we got a really nice bend, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to work on the other side now, because it takes an hour to steam, 55 minutes I put it on for. And then once that steams, we'll bend the other side. And then we're going to get out the back set jig I have, and then we're going to see, I may not put the back set jig today. I may make a new one. I got to see how it looks. All right. So let's get a couple of measurements just for the heck of it for today that I didn't tell you about. The oval length of the bow, okay, was 66 inches. And remember I told you I went from the fade out down 6 inches? Well, I actually have, from the center, it's 10 inches on each side, so it's 20 inches. And the reason I'm telling you that, if you go with this design, where I have a 20-inch span here, okay, of the same width, it's because I have a smaller hand, and I use a smaller riser. People with bigger hands use bigger risers. And from the fade out to the fade out on this one, okay, where I would put the mark where the fade out meets the limb, is probably 8.5 inches, okay? The actual back of the handle, the belly part of the handle, is only 5 3/4 from here to here. Okay, so that's why I figured I'd give you a 20-inch mark is how far you go down with, to give a little extra support for the bend. And we'll see how that works out when it comes time to tiller it. All right, so for now, I'm going to plug in that steamer, get it cooking, and we'll do the other side. A minute after I took this off, I says, I only heated this for 10 minutes and I got a lot of spring back. So what I did was I reclamped it and I started heating just this end for 10 minutes here. And I realized once I had it clamped, I was able to take this end clamp off and it stayed. So this got a full 10 minutes on the curve and then another 10 minutes here. So that was like a total of 30 minutes, okay? But the first 10 minutes, because I was going over such a wide area, I don't know how much it did, but I concentrated 10 minutes of heat here on the curb, and then from here to like mid-limb, another 10 minutes. So it's cool to the touch now. I expect to get some spring back. Like I said, once you fire harden it, it stays on the jig. But let's see how much spring back we get now. I expect to get some. But I gave it 30 minutes altogether. So, okay. So that little bit there is acceptable, because what I could do is once I have the jig, the fire hardening jig, and I go to put this on, you know, it'll all conform to the jig. So let's check it out. Okay, let's look at it. Nice and straight. It looks pretty straight. I'm sure once, it'll always need a little tweaking, all right? It'll always, at some point when I get a string on it, it's always going to need some tweaking left or right. It's just the way it is, okay? So what we're going to do now is, get the steamer going, and in another hour, we're going to have this done, bend it, and now I know to really concentrate. 10 minutes on the curve, 10 minutes on the mid-limb at least, okay? Let me plug it in and get it going, and we'll show you the second side. Okay, the water's dripping on the second limb here, out the relief hole, and the steam's coming out of the two holes there, the pressure release holes I have there, and it's going to be, set the timer for 50 minutes, and we'll come back. This recurve fire hardening jig that I have is supposed to fit a 66-inch bow. So we'll see how it aligns, how it fits. If it fits good, fine. If not, I'm going to get another piece of lumber and make a little better one. Okay, bending limb number 2. Trying to get it nice and level here. Okay, see how we got that there. Using a metal strap to prevent any grain lift. Seems to be working like a charm. Seems to be okay. Beautiful. Make sure these limbs are aligned best as I can. A little more on that side, a little less on that side. Okay. Seems to be a little more, it's a little offset on this side. I'm trying to make it offset on this side too. Okay, it looks pretty good. Pretty cool already. Okay, we're going to let it cool up. Then what I'm going to do is take the metal off, because we know we're going to have spring back. And then I'm going to make sure that the wood's scented perfectly and heat treat it. Okay, so we get to correct any little bit that's off, that I think is off. When I put this on and I clamped it, it's over a little bit, but that's okay. I think I got it aligned. I'm going to take off the clamps. See how much big spring back we got. I'm going to get rid of the metal, and then I'm going to fire harden it. I mean, not fire harden, I'm going to heat treat it to get it aligned perfect as I can. And then we're going to put it on that fire hardening jig that I have. Okay, see how it is here? Okay. So now, looks good, right? Looks good. But we have that back set. So now what I'm going to do now is make sure that I have it looking down this jig, that I have it perfectly aligned with equal wood on both sides. Okay. And I'm going to put the clamp on this side so I can use the heat gun and go around it. Okay. And just move it over here more. I think that looks better. Perfectionist, right? Got to be a perfectionist with this stuff here. Okay. Now that I got it aligned down the end, I want to align down this end too. Make sure it's aligned good enough. Okay, it looks like it's even all the way down. A little more meat on this side, a little more meat on this side, even up here. It's bending okay. Okay, and put this big clamp on down the end here by the midpoint again. Put a little pressure on it. This way we can see how it's bending, how it looks. Okay, it looks good. Now it's time for the heat gun. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here. Maybe a little longer, and we'll see how it is. And we're going to have some spring back. And hopefully when we put it on the recurve fire hardening jig that I got, it'll all work out. Okay, looks pretty good. Alignment looks pretty good. And I'm going to set up this fire hardening back set jig here. Not really a lot of back set, but it's more for fire hardening a recurve. I'm going to set it up and clamp it up. I'll get back. Really cold. I am freezing. We got snow coming up in the forecast. And I'm going to make a new back set jig for the 66-inch recurve, because I think if I'm going to make recurves, they'll probably be like 66 inches. This jig was for a smaller one that I made one time. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just get a bigger board and make a new one from scratch. It's absolutely freezing today. All right, and we got this Arctic blast coming down on Long Island. It's like 30 degrees with big wind gusts. So this is that beautiful recurve that I made, and I'm making a specific recurve jig for 66-inch for a 66-inch bow. Okay, in case I wanted to make another one, and I'll show you the jig. I bought a new 2x8, and what I did was I used the jig as a guide, 1 inch down from the beginning of the curve. Okay, 1 inch down, and tape it up to the center. So it's going to have 1 inch of back set on this recurve jig. It's already got the curves. I don't want to go crazy with back set or anything, and I didn't want to make it flat, so we're going to go with 1 inch. So what I'm going to do now is, I got it laid out. All these measure twice, cut once. I'm going to measure 3 times. Use the circular saw, cut the straight lines down, and then I'm going to take it to the bandsaw and cut the curves. It's so cold with that Arctic vortex coming down. I got heat packs in my hat, and I got a heated vest on, and with that wind, it's still cold. Getting there. Okay, the recurve fire hardening jig is done. It's going to have only 1 inch of back set because it's a recurve, and I'm going to cut a section of this out. It's just too much weight, too much mass. So that's the next. I'm going to just remove some material. Okay, after a lot of trimming, back and forth, weight removal. Okay, I still don't know if I have to take off more at the ends, but I'm going to heat these limbs up and get them down, and then see what I gotta, see if I gotta make some fine adjustments to it. You know, it's cold, I'm tired, but you know, I gotta follow through with it. I took off the clamps. I had to remark it, take off the clamps, trim it, sand it, put the bow back on, take it off, trim it, sand it. This will fit a 66-inch bow that I use my 5.5-inch radius recurve jig on. And once again, every bow's a little different. You know, if I have to put a little shim here or whatever, but this is the final setup for this fire hardening recurve setup, this recurve jig. I'm going to, okay, for fire hardening. So I'm so cold I can't even think straight. I can't even talk straight. But I'm going to heat this up. I'm going to spend like 45 minutes on this, and then it's going to go in the garage, and we got to wait for a warmer day. It may be a week. We got that really cold Arctic blast coming down. I don't know when I'm going to get the fire harden this, but today by far, with the wind and me being out here getting this, was one of the toughest days to get through. So I'm going to heat it up, and that's the end of this video for today. Next will be fire hardening, buffalo tips, and tillering. The clamps have been reversed, going in the garage until I don't know when to be fire hardened.